Okay, week one is Introduction to Macro Practice. So you guys are going to be learning what macro practice, what it is, what it means, the history of macro practice, and why it's essential to social workers. So we have 7 readings for this week that we're going to quickly go over, 2 discussion questions, 2 videos to also watch, and then prep for the first assignment that's due next Thursday for week 2. If you click here on Objectives, Readings, and Media, you're going to be able to access all the readings. As I had mentioned before, there is no other course book required for this class except for the APA manual, so you make sure that you're citing appropriately. So this first week of readings is catered to learning about what social justice is, what community organizing is, and really just an introduction to macro practice and how the Code of Ethics for Social Workers relates to that work. Beyond that, there's 3 additional supplemental readings around community health, again around social justice, the role of the Department of Economic and Social Affairs, and so if those particular areas are of interest to you, I do suggest that you read those. They're not required, but at any rate, I do think that it's always helpful to kind of scan through them and get a sense of what they're saying. For the 2 videos, the first video for this week is in regards to ethical principles within the NASW Code of Ethics, and then another video on settlement houses and the history of macro practice, just another way to kind of get that information. Let's jump over to the 2 discussion questions for this week. The first discussion question is going to be an introduction to the communities that you're a part of. Let that load. So I want you to describe 2 communities that have been important to your development as a social worker in this post. And these communities could be places that you've lived, employment that you've had, institutions that you've been a part of, or groups. And then the initial post should include the name of the community. If it's confidential, then just a broader name. The community in terms of size, number of members, other kinds of characteristics that you think are going to be important. A few sentences about the purpose of each of those communities, and then a few sentences about what being a member of that community really meant to you or provided for you. Then in your response posts, I'd like you to discuss the similarities and differences that you see between the communities that you're a part of and the communities that your classmates are a part of. So really to think about what seemed most important to you versus what seemed most important to some of your peers. Just a reminder for the due dates for the posts. Your initial post between 200 and 500 words is due by Thursdays before midnight, so 11:59 p.m. Your response posts, at least 2 response posts between 75 and 150 words, are due by Sunday evening before 11:59 p.m. Please remember to use these discussion forum rubrics and guidelines. Your discussion forum posts are the majority of your grade, so it's really important that you follow these guidelines. All right, and then I'd like to jump to the second discussion question. Oops. Okay. So this discussion question is based on the case study, and I want you to describe the social and economic justice issues that are at stake in Anita's case. Please do include at least 1 citation from the week's readings and a citation from the Code of Ethics to support your description. And then select one of the social and economic justice issues that you described and tell us how social workers can use community organizing to address this issue. So in particular, the Bethwick and Lopez Community Organizing Resource under week 1 of your required readings will help you identify different community organizing techniques, and so you can use that as your primary reference. For your response post, respond to at least 2 classmates who have not yet had responses, and discuss the similarities and differences that you saw between your observations and those of your classmates. Questions to think about are, did you see the issues at stake the same way? Or were they different issues, or were different issues important? And, in regards to the organizing techniques, did you pick the same ones as your peers, or did they pick different techniques? So we just went over the guidelines. I won't go over those again. And then how to prep for the first assignment, which is my community in words and pictures. So you're going to be doing this particular assignment on the community that you live in. You can choose a town, a neighborhood, a city. It's really up to you on the geographic size. And you're going to start by describing the demographics of that community. This assignment is going to be a 5 to 8 minute presentation on either PowerPoint or Word, and then using Screencast-O-Matic to record the oral component, so you can tell us and analyze the community. So in order to do this assignment, you'll need to read Seeking the Good Community, which is the article that's going to define for you what are the components of a quote-unquote good community. For the assignment, I've given you here a few resources to be able to identify some of the demographics of your chosen community. In addition to that, I want you to do some research and think about what are the important institutions in that community, whether it's political institutions, education institutions, criminal justice, so on and so forth. Also informal institutions like sports leagues and churches. Add a map of the community so that we can see what it looks like, and there's some mapping tools that you can use here. And then the most important piece is your assessment of whether or not the elements that are found to be categorized as a good community in the article, would you characterize your neighborhood or your town or city as a good community? And then describe why or why not. If you describe that it's not a good community, what changes or improvements would you make in your community if you could? So include that as well. And as always, here's the rubric for this assignment. Please do follow it, and it'll ensure that everything is fully addressed and that you score well. One thing in general that I want to note is when you're drafting your posts and your assignments, please do review your work and or have someone else review your work. If you have more than a couple, you should have no spelling and grammar errors, but if you have more than a couple, it's really going to impact your grade. So I'm just stating that now, so please do proofread your work. I think that's about it for week 1 and Introduction to Macro Practice. If you have not yet watched this introductory 4-minute video that's posted here as a welcome to economic and social justice, then please do that as well for your week 1. I'm available for questions over email, and I will look forward to seeing your first week 1 posts. Thanks.